The 1990s. It gave us grunge, Friends, and a love for neon that we're still not totally over. It felt like a simpler time, right? A time of dial-up tones, blockbuster Fridays, and this feeling that things were only getting better. But looking back, it was also a time when we were surrounded by some of the most shockingly dangerous products ever made. It was an era where the thrill of a new gadget or the promise of a miracle toy often steamrolled any real concern for safety. We owned this stuff, we loved it, and then it all just started to disappear from shelves. How did things that felt so normal, so much a part of our daily lives, end up getting recalled, restricted, or flat out banned? You'll be shocked when you remember what you probably owned. Kicking off our list are moon shoes, the mini trampolines for your feet that promised anti-gravity effects. The idea was awesome. Bounce around like you're on the moon. The reality, though, was a one-way ticket to a sprained ankle. These clunky plastic platforms, held on by rubber bands, were wildly unstable. A fun bounce could turn into a painful snap in a split second, making them a total nightmare for parents. While they were never officially banned and later returned with safer designs, the original 90s version taught a whole generation what an ankle sprain felt like. A true 90s fashion statement. The slap bracelet was a simple strip of metal covered in fabric that curled perfectly around your wrist. The problem? Quality control was all over the map. The cheap ones used flimsy fabric that would quickly wear away, exposing a sharp, sometimes rusty metal strip. That turned a cool accessory into a tetanus shot waiting to happen. It didn't take long for schools to ban them to stop kids from getting sliced up on the playground. Remember those fat-free potato chips in the 90s that tasted suspiciously like the real thing? Seemed too good to be true, and oh boy, it was. The secret sauce was Olestra, a fat substitute that your body couldn't digest. It went right through you, taking all the calories with it. Unfortunately, it also came with some explosive side effects. We're talking about anal leakage and alarming gastrointestinal events. The FDA never officially banned it, but the mandatory warning label about loose stools was enough to make most shoppers ban it from their carts forever. In the mid-90s, Barbie got extreme. Mattel released a rollerblade Barbie whose skates shot out real sparks as she rolled. The mechanism was basically a cigarette lighter flint embedded in her skates. The whole point was for kids to create a trail of sparks, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the problem here. Actively shooting sparks around a kid's bedroom filled with paper carpets and bedding is a terrible fire hazard. After a wave of complaints, this literally hot toy was quietly pulled from stores. Getting a Power Wheels was the ultimate 90s kid dream. You had your own ride and the freedom of the driveway at a blistering 5 miles per hour. But that dream could quickly turn into a fire hazard. Fisher-Price had to recall over 10 million Power Wheels vehicles due to faulty wiring in the late 90s. The foot pedal switches could overheat, causing the toys to literally catch fire. There were hundreds of reports of the vehicles melting or igniting, making it one of the largest toy recalls in history. These things were a staple of 90s summers. You'd fill a plastic rocket with water, put it on a launch pad, and use a hand pump to build up pressure until it shot hundreds of feet in the air. The issue was that you were essentially creating a small pressure bomb. Sometimes, instead of launching, the rockets would just explode on the ground, sending plastic shrapnel flying in every direction. Various models were recalled over the years after dozens of reports of serious cuts and facial injuries. In the mid-90s, these cheap net-style hammocks without spreader bars became a backyard staple. But they hid a deadly design flaw. Without the wooden bars to keep the net open, the hammock could twist around a person and close in on itself like a cocoon. Tragically, this design led to the strangulation deaths of at least 12 children who became tangled and couldn't escape. This prompted a massive recall of over 3 million of these hammocks in 1996 and a change in safety standards to require spreader bars. If you wanted to lose weight or get a jolt of energy in the 90s, ephedra was everywhere. It was in diet pills, energy boosters, and marketed as a totally natural herbal remedy. But ephedra was basically a powerful amphetamine that could make your heart rate and blood pressure skyrocket. By the early 2000s, it had been linked to more than 150 deaths, thousands of heart attacks, strokes, and seizures. After a huge public fight, the FDA finally banned all ephedra supplements in 2004. This was one of those deceptively simple toys, a squishy ball filled with liquid on a stretchy, sticky cord that you'd swing around like a yo-yo. The danger was that long elastic cord. It was just stretchy enough to wrap around a child's neck, and because of its bouncy nature, could pull dangerously tight. After a flood of reports about near misses with strangulation, these toys were recalled and banned in several countries, becoming another fad that vanished overnight. Okay, clackers were mainly a 70s craze, but they had a brief, ill-advised comeback in the 90s. The toy was two heavy acrylic balls on a string that you'd clack together until they were flying at high speed. The problem was, and always had been, that the hard plastic balls could shatter on impact, sending sharp, high-velocity shrapnel everywhere. Eye injuries were no joke. The 90s revival was quickly shut down for the exact same reasons they were banned from schools decades earlier. For parents in the 90s, a stroller was non-negotiable, but a popular model from Costco had a terrifying flaw. The locks that were supposed to keep the stroller from collapsing could fail without warning. This meant the whole thing could suddenly fold up with a baby or toddler inside. In 1997, after dozens of reports of these strollers collapsing and causing injuries like cuts and head trauma, over 300,000 of them were recalled. This wasn't your average cap gun. Instead of just making a sound, this 90s novelty used a roll of paper caps to create a loud bang and a shower of sparks. Marketed as a fun toy, it was literally a spark-producing device in the hands of a kid. This posed an obvious and serious fire hazard, especially around flammable stuff like paper, curtains, or dry leaves. Unsurprisingly, many schools and towns banned them. This one is less a single invention and more a silent threat that was everywhere in the 90s. While lead paint in houses was banned in the 70s, the rules for toys, especially those made overseas, weren't as tight. Throughout the decade, hundreds of toys were recalled for containing illegal levels of lead. Even iconic brands weren't safe. In 1997, certain Super Soaker models were recalled because the cool decals on the side were made with lead paint that kids could ingest. In 1995, Nintendo released a console that was way ahead of its time, the Virtual Boy, one of the first consumer VR headsets. It promised immersive 3D gaming, but the tech just wasn't ready. The display was a headache-inducing mess of red and black, and the device was heavy and awkward. More importantly, Nintendo had to pack it with warnings that the console could cause eye strain, nausea, and headaches, and it even had an automatic pause feature. It was a total commercial flop, discontinued in less than a year, mostly because it was physically painful to use. In the mid-90s, a drug combo called fen-phen was celebrated as a weight loss miracle. Doctors prescribed it to millions. But by 1997, the miracle cure was exposed as a killer. Researchers discovered a direct link between fen-phen and fatal lung disease, as well as severe heart valve damage. The FDA issued a global recall, and the manufacturer ended up facing billions in lawsuits. It remains one of the biggest medical disasters of the decade. Trying to copy the massive success of a similar toy for girls, dragonflies hit the boys' toy aisle in the mid-90s. The toy was a warrior figure with foam wings that you put on a handheld launcher. Pull a ripcord, and the figure would spin and fly into the air. But the dragon launched with insane, uncontrolled speed. These things were responsible for a shocking number of injuries, from chipped teeth and facial cuts to broken ribs. They were finally recalled in 2000 after more than 150 official injury reports. This might be the single most dangerous product combination of the entire decade. In the late 90s, a terrifying pattern emerged. Ford Explorers, one of the most popular cars on the road, were involved in a huge number of deadly rollover accidents. The investigation uncovered a perfect storm of danger. The Firestone tires on the Explorers were prone to having their treads suddenly fly off, causing a blowout. Combined with the Explorer's high center of gravity, this made the vehicle nearly impossible to control. The scandal led to a recall of over 6.5 million tires and is blamed for hundreds of deaths. In 1996, Mattel launched a new Cabbage Patch Kid that could actually eat plastic food. The doll had a battery-powered mechanical jaw that would munch on plastic snacks and send them to a backpack. The problem? The motorized mouth couldn't tell the difference between a plastic carrot and a child's finger or hair. The one-way rollers just kept pulling, and there was no off switch. After dozens of reports of the doll chewing on kids' hair and fingers, Mattel issued a voluntary recall and a refund for the $500,000 dolls they'd sold. Yes, the iconic slip and slide. While the modern kid-sized versions are safer, the ones sold through the 70s, 80s and into the 90s were a menace for teens and adults. The short plastic runway was simply not long enough for a full-sized person. An adult's momentum would carry them right off the end or cause a sudden stop, leading to devastating spinal cord injuries, broken necks, and even paralysis. In 1993, the government issued an official warning that the product should never be used by adults, and recalls were issued. The Creepy Crawler's oven was a 90s revival of a 60s classic. Kids would pour liquid Plasti-Goop into metal molds and cook them in a small oven powered by a light bulb to create rubbery insects. What could possibly go wrong? Well, first, the oven hit temperatures over 300 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough for serious burns. Second, heating up that chemical goo released nasty, potentially toxic fumes. The mix of extreme heat and chemical fumes made this a toy that would never get approved today. Now this one is truly chilling. In 1993, Playskool had to recall nearly 100,000 of its popular portable cribs. The design had a fatal flaw. The side rails could collapse, creating a V-shape that could trap and suffocate an infant. The cribs were linked to the deaths of multiple babies before the danger was fully understood, and the recall was issued. It was a terrifying reminder of how a seemingly simple design flaw could have the most devastating consequences. Perhaps the most infamous dangerous toy of the 90s. Sky Dancers were beautiful dolls with foam wings that, when placed on a launcher and powered by a pull cord, would spin gracefully into the air. Except they weren't always graceful. They launched unpredictably and with the force of a small missile. The hard plastic body and rapidly spinning wings were a recipe for disaster. There were over 150 official reports of injuries, including scratched corneas, broken teeth, and facial lacerations, before they were finally recalled in 2000. This is the one. In 2000, an investigation revealed something unthinkable. Some of the world's most trusted crayon brands, including Crayola, contained asbestos. The source was contaminated talc used in the crayon wax. Asbestos fibers, when inhaled, are a known carcinogen that can cause fatal diseases decades later. The idea that the single most innocent, universal childhood product could contain a deadly substance sent a shockwave of panic through parents everywhere. The companies quickly changed their formulas to remove talc, but for a moment it made us all wonder if anything was truly safe. It wasn't a toy that blew up or had a sharp edge, it was a silent, hidden danger in the one thing every kid held in their hands. From flying dolls to toxic crayons, the 1990s were a true Wild West for consumer safety. Looking back, it's a wonder so many of us made it out in one piece. These banned products aren't just funny stories, they're the reason we have the strict safety standards we rely on today. They're ghosts from a time when buyer beware was the unofficial rule. Which of these did you own, or did we miss one that almost took you out? Let us know in the comments below. We want to hear your survival stories.